Kindling is a food sovereignty organisation. We're really passionate about food equality, and we see huge problems in the existing supply chain. So from the farmer to the individual who's consuming the food that's being grown, there's huge problems. And what we're trying to do with Kindling is intervene at various levels, because we're aware that you can't just tinker with the existing system. You have to almost start again. And that's what Kindling has been doing over the last couple of years. We've been setting up projects along the supply chain to see if we can do it better. So one of the projects we've set up is the Land Army. So it was inspired from what happened in the World Wars, where volunteers, predominantly from urban areas, went out and helped in rural communities. And what we do is we take our volunteers from Greater Manchester out to the farms, and they basically spend the day with us and our farmers, and they help busy times of the year. And that does two things. It introduces them to farming and asks them, would this be something you would consider in the future as a career? But also helps farmers who often are working in isolation and really struggling financially. So we then took a concept from America called FarmStart, and that's an incubator farm. So people are given the opportunity to come and learn with growers, come on various courses, but also take on a piece of land. So over a couple of years, they'll start with 1/4 of an acre and they'll move on to larger plots. And it's really a way of enabling them to explore whether farming is for them, and also whether they have a good business concept that they can take over 3 or 4 years out into the marketplace.
The farm starters that originally started have developed, and you can tell that in the way that they've concentrated on crops that they know they can sell.
Me and Olivia did the initial 4-week course regarding commercial growing with Kindling, and after that we kind of sat down and thought, this is great, let's go for it. So we just went for it. As you meet the growers that you meet at FarmStart who come and kind of give you advice, it just makes you want to go and visit other growers, and you see that it's actually possible, whereas before I probably would have never really thought about it. I'd have more thought in terms of community growing, really small scale and just for myself, whereas this, you kind of feel like you could potentially make a change. You're involved with something that could actually change the food system, and you feel part of it, which is really kind of satisfying.
Each farm starter has a section, 1/4 of an acre or a little larger, where they're growing in rows. So you'll see today that we've had PSB being harvested. So we've got 100 metres of purple sprouting broccoli that we harvest every day. We've got a couple of beds of strawberries and carrots.
The other element of FarmStart is to help people have access to market. We're really lucky because we're based on a farm that has a farm shop and also a monthly farmers market. One of the other markets that we have that we've helped create really is called Manchester Veg People. That is a co-op of growers and buyers and the workers who organise the ordering and distribution. And the growers are the most local growers, organic growers to Greater Manchester, and the buyers are a range of restaurants, from high-end restaurants to sort of normal everyday cafes and pubs. The University of Manchester are one of our buyers as part of the Manchester Veg People Co-op. They are actually one of the founding members, and they started off taking a small bit of produce for one of the on-campus canteens, and now they take it for various cafes and also the halls of residence, so that's really exciting and scaled up. So excitingly, we were recently approached by a secondary school in Stockport who want to start working with us on a pilot project to look at how we can work with them on their menus and incorporate Manchester Veg People produce, but also keep the cost of school meals as they are.
In terms of what's unique about it, it probably has to do with the relationships that exist between MVP workers, the farmers that are growing the produce, and the people who are our customers that are buying it. And those relationships, I think, really spin around an axis that has to do with where our ethical anchor comes from, which is to work as a cooperative. That we will work to have a fairer local food system, It means that the farmers are not going to be exploited and have their work degraded and underpaid, and the growers are going to be in a situation where they can have an influence on what is being grown. They can have input into what it is, so that they ask for specific crops, and that we're in a position to be able to provide it to them.
From the University of Manchester becoming a member of Manchester Veg People and purchasing about £40,000 worth of veg a year, going into the cafes, the staff and students started to ask, how can we get hold of this fantastic produce that our farmers are producing? So really recently we've set up a box scheme called Veg Box People. So we're on campus every Tuesday and staff are able to come along and buy a box of our veg. So that's just really embedded and strengthened our relationship with the University of Manchester.
The next stage for us really is building on everything we've done. So all these different projects, all of them are going well and are kind of starting to work, but we do need to scale it up. If we really want to show that a sustainable and fairer food system is possible for Greater Manchester, then we need to do everything on a slightly bigger scale. So the way that we think we can do that is by buying a larger scale farm. We're looking to access land, 200 acres, within 50 miles of Greater Manchester, and on that land we will have a number of different elements.
You'll come onto the farm and you'll see a traditional farm in many ways, but will you be using the latest sustainable agricultural techniques? We'll be growing field scale but also under glass. We'll be growing lots of different varieties of food and fruit and veg to take into Manchester to supply the public sector. We'll be adding value to a lot of that produce that we grow. So we'll have an enterprise centre. We'll be creating bread from the cereals we grow. We'll be creating beer. We'll be creating pies. And all these things will be there really to create livelihoods for local people but also the residents. We'll have a residential element because we're very aware that farming is very tough, particularly if you don't live on the land. So we'll have 20, 30 people maybe living on site who will be farming the land, producing that food, and then also involved in other elements of the farm. The Centre for Social Change will be a venue for conferences, for training, for people really to come together and share information and then crucially take it back to their communities. So we call it the Kindling Farm, but in lots of ways it's a community, it's a village of sorts. What will hold it together is an example of sustainable living, sustainable production, renewable energies, low impact housing, just looking at how we can make our future more sustainable.
So one of the other really important things about why we're setting up the farm is about supporting people to make change in their own communities and also on a global scale. So I think one of the reasons we all got involved was because we were really frustrated about the way the world is, and not just the food system but the system as a whole, and we wanted to show that we can actually stop the things we don't agree with. So change, say no, this isn't acceptable. It isn't acceptable that farmers don't get paid properly. It isn't acceptable that thousands of people are having to use food banks. But also to say there is something we can do about it, and there is an alternative food economy that we can build by working together, and that's what we're going to try and do. That's the point of the farm.
We feel like Kindling's always there for us, which is a very nice thing to think about. And Kindling's kind of unflinching support of growers is very apparent, and I guess we feel like if we ever have a problem or there's anything we need to talk about, or if we're expanding or if we have new ideas about the business, Kindling is an organisation we can always go and talk to, and it's really good to know that.
So there's loads of ways that you can get involved with us. We wouldn't have been able to do anything that we're doing now without a lot of people around us and working with us. You could get involved from being a volunteer to becoming a new grower for Manchester Veg People, to buying our veg, to buying one of our community shares when we launch that offer to help us buy the farm in a few years.
We're online, we're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, and our website is kindling.org.uk.